The whole point of doing sort of Nickelodeon right now is that we're actually going to be talking about Double Dare because it debuted on Nickelodeon October 6th, 1986. So that would have been just about 36 years ago, depending on when you're tuning into this episode, is when that would have dropped. But the show...
Maybe you're tuning in 5 years from now.
Yeah, and then you're like, wow, that's amazing. It's their dates are completely off. So the show was inspired by the game Mousetrap. The series was pitched as sort of a Rube Goldberg machine that used people instead of balls. Now, no joke about the balls there. Mousetrap, was that a board game that you guys really had down there in Australia?
We had that. Okay. Yeah, we had that. And that
it wasn't called like Dingo Trap or like Kangaroo Trap?
No, there's certain things that we bastardized, but that particular one got left alone. And it was because we still have Mousetraps in Australia, but that game tore families apart. Like
more so than Monopoly?
No, more so than, well, not more so than Monopoly, but the reason is that you could play that, you had to be a little bit older to understand and play Monopoly. With Mousetrap, you could play it when you were 5. But the setting up of the Mousetrap, the frustration when the Mousetrap didn't work.
Oh, God.
And then the parents having to look at the kids and being like, hey, it's just a game. And the kids are like, well, then why the fuck did we set it all up? And then people would lose their shit. I remember hearing stories from kids when they would come to school and say, oh, I had a horrible night last night. The family got into it. Mousetrap. I wanted to get Mousetrap. Go ahead, fucking start it. I wanted to get Mousetrap when I was a kid. I saw the ads all over TV, and then I heard a couple of horror stories from kids that came back like, yeah, man, I never heard a positive story. We had a nice, relaxed time. I'd had a cigar and a scotch. Mum was having a glass of wine, was relaxed, and we had a lovely, quaint game of Mousetrap. No, it was always ended in kid throwing the table up in the fucking air. How much time I got left?
You have a lot, because what I was actually going to bring up too is, do you remember the one part that almost never worked? Was at the end when you had to get the dude to jump into the pool, and then that knocks the trap down and it goes click, 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 down like that. That part never worked, and you would sit and watch the rest of the goddamn trap going, and then all of a sudden the dude wouldn't make it into the pool, and that was the worst
and the whole family
outcome.
would hold their breath and unanimously go, fuck!
Made it!
Lovely. So what was the... Damn, that's loud, dude. All right, so the name of the show, again, I'm going back up here because this show did not make it over to the States whatsoever. Mousetrap did, but what the hell? Double Dare.
Double Dare, baby!
The role of the host. So the role of the host was offered to Dana Carvey, which would have been so much fun, but it was at the same time that he was offered a spot on Saturday Night Live. Obviously, he chose SNL over Double Dare, and history was made.
Really quick, and then I guess I should sort of give a synopsis of Double Dare. It's 2 teams of 2 kids. I believe it was always a boy and a girl on each team, and they would answer questions to gain points, and then there would be physical challenges. And so if a question goes unanswered, you can or if you don't know the answer, you can dare the other team to answer it. If they don't know it, they can double dare you. Then if you still don't know it, and each time the money goes up for, you know, or your points go up. And then if you still don't know it, you do the physical challenge where you have to go catch, you know, like soap in a container or water or something like that, or a race. And it was awesome. The show was amazing. So somebody else who was considered to host was comedian Soupy Sales, who had a popular kids show in the 50s. I don't know Soupy Sales. I just know that there was a show. There was a show somewhere. I want to say it was Friends. I think it was Friends.
Okay.
When Phoebe has been possessed by the older lady who died on her massage table. And she makes a comment about Soupy Sales. And all the rest of the friends were like, what the hell is that? And she goes, who is Soupy Sales? And I remember like that. I'm like, that's a thing. That's a person. And apparently that was somebody they considered to be the host of Double Dare. And they had they had a show in the 50s.
Yeah, never heard of that one either. Once again, the Australia thing. But the first hold
on.
So go ahead.
Because since you actually don't know the show, I should tell you. So the team that wins, they go through an obstacle course at the end. That's kind of the Mousetrap sort of Rube Goldberg aspect of it. And so there's a series of challenges, and through each one, the point is you get a flag. And then the more flags you get, the more prizes you win. And then obviously if you get the last one, you get the grand prize, whatever that is. So now you may go.
So the first obstacle was a disaster. The goal of the obstacle course was to go through different obstacles, find the red flag. On the first take, someone forgot to hide the flags. On take 2, the contestant was covered in feathers and couldn't see the flag that was in plain sight. On the third take, a cameraman fell into the shot. They finally got it on the fourth take. Jesus Christ. Well, it sounds like Nickelodeon. It sounds like a Nickelodeon show. Like the People's Choice Awards with the buckets of goop and this just sounds like it's madness.
Oh, and slime was a major part of this. We'll even get into kind of what the slime was made out of specifically for Double Dare. But the show was first filmed at a Philadelphia television station. Eventually, they moved down to Orlando during Universal, where they had the big sort of Nickelodeon campus thing down there. And they had built a studio that had its own sewage system that helped them clean up because the tapings were so messy, because it was gunk and crap everywhere, and the crew would go through, it's an estimated 600 to 1,000 towels per taping just to clean up properly.
Oh my God. Despite how clean they would try to make the set, it was a major slipping hazard. The crew ended up moving around by shuffling their feet like you would on ice. That's insane.
And I don't think I put this in here, but the set was designed to kind of look like a bathroom. And so it's all tile. And you know what tile gets like when it's wet, it's crazy slippery, and that's what it was like. And there was one major injury. I mean, there might have been more, but there's one to note of. When a kid went to brace himself during an obstacle, he was sliding, he slipped and broke his arm. And it broke so bad, the bone was poking through the skin.
Oh.
Now the host, Mark Summers, this is a guy that we grew up on, was Mark Summers. He would recall later that the kid actually lied on his application. And I've heard two different versions of the story. One is he had a condition that made his bones more brittle. And then there was another condition. There was another one that said that he had broken his arm on multiple occasions, making it easier to break. It's something similar to that. So that's why he ended up making that mistake. Oh, I just realized too that I need to change this because Korn's next.
Okay, cool. You also need to give me record permission since we just took a moment to do tech stuff. But I'm amazed that they're trying to figure out, well, listen, we've created a deeply hazardous place that's just an accident-prone environment waiting to happen, and we've decided to let kids throw their entire bodies into obstacles. But when the kid breaks his arm, it's his fucking fault for not disclosing that he's got brittle bones, or he broke his bone once before.
Well, I mean, it was specific. It was in the
blame
it
on
the
the kid. How old was the kid?
I mean, it was in the paperwork. They're probably 12, 13.
I can just imagine the stage parents walking along with the bone protruding, being like, "Put some dirt on it. Come on, get back in there. We got a contract to fulfill. You got
to win that VCR.
Yeah. We got to pay rent this month.
Yeah.
So the show would spawn multiple products, including GAC. Fuck, I remember GAC, which was basically packaged slime. They still sell that shit, don't they? The crew members called it GAC as almost a homage to heroin because its street name was GAC. Is that true?
That's what I read.
Damn, dude.
Sort of like, hey, we're just going to call this crap GAC. They still sell that stuff everywhere. I don't know if they call it GAC anymore. I don't know if they have the actual brand.
Oh, they still sell
GAC.
They sell slime, but you remember GAC, right?
It's everywhere.
You remember?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
And I remember they came out with another one a few years later. It might not have even been a few years later, but it was called Floam. And it was, I swear it was GAC, but it had small styrofoam pellets in it.
Yeah.
You remember that one?
Yeah.
I remember the GAC one was cool.
With that. They still sell it.
Because the packaging, it looked like a splatter. And so what you could do is you would stick your hand in one and go, and you can make it fart. And it was just, it had to be the most annoying thing for parents at all times. My kid still got them. Now, thankfully for my kid, I find it hilarious. So when she does it, she gets it. Even when I'm pissed, I'll have like the worst goddamn day. And I know you hear from that stupid GAC thing. And it's like, and I'll get a good chuckle out of it. So they would test out the obstacles by having kids from the Philadelphia area come in on non-shoot days to test them. If they couldn't get through the obstacle on 3 tries, that idea was scrapped.
They just picked up random kids from Philly?
Well, I'm sure. I'm sure they didn't just I'm sure they roll around in a windowless van.
The way
offering
that
up
you made
candy.
it sound, there was like they just had kids from the Philadelphia area come in. Like, how do they scoop up these kids? Like,
Well, I'm
just go
pretty
to
sure
a-
that they would make announcements at schools and stuff and be like, hey,
Okay.
we're not shooting on these days. Your brain goes really goddamn dark fast,
well, the way
man.
that you write it could be in 1987, they calculated how much food they would go through in one show. The numbers were 50 gallons of whipped cream, 30 gallons of slime, dozens of eggs, and 10 cubic feet of popcorn. Cubic feet. That's like an entire bedroom of fucking popcorn. That's more than an damn. That's
10,
more.
10
That's
cubic
that's,
feet's not that much. It's not an entire.
No, if you
bed.
had a small bed, like, I mean, if you're like a little kid. Anyway,
I think Shim's a little off on that. But going through that much food in a taping, it caused concern over wasting food. So the crew would use past dated food because it was expired. The studio reeked. It just smelled awful. There was one time that they had a giant plexiglass tank filled with expired beans. I'll repeat that. Expired beans. They ended up having to have a septic tank company come out and remove the rotted beans. The story that I read said it was sitting there for like 4 days.
oh my god! And did they put kids in this? They covered kids in this stuff during the obstacles.
Now, I don't know if they did after that, but it was still expired food that the kids were rolling around in, yeah.
Did the kids, when you were watching the show, did you ever see a kid like dry retch or throw up or look like they were going to do that? Never. They didn't. They edited that shit out. Wow. Okay. The show. Oh, this is funny. The show would get 10,000 letters a month, a lot of which were angry parents complaining that they had to postpone dinner because their kid wanted to watch the show right at 5:30.
I mean, you didn't have a DVR back then, right? We didn't have streaming services. When that show was
But it
on,
just-
you better be in front of that TV, man.
To write in 10,000 parents to write in and say, look, we don't want you to cancel the show, even
just
though it's the
move it,
dumbest
move the
fucking
time.
show in history. Like, just move it so that we can still have our little anyway.
It's not the dumbest show in history. Why would it be the dumbest show in history?
Expired food,
Oh, God.
septic tank for the
You're
fucking
getting
everything
extreme
for
really
everything you
easy.
just said. Everything you just said. I remember watching that show thinking, one, child exploitation,
Oh,
two,
God.
these
Oh, my
people are
God.
fucking stupid. You know what I mean?
No, I don't at all. So Mark
Right.
Summers, he does host bootleg versions of the show now, including one called Dunkle Dare, and it's a beer-themed challenge that takes place during Philadelphia's Beer Week.
Apparently, Mark Summers was a bit of a ladies' man. When the show would go on tour, they would do meet and greets afterwards. Mums would come up and give him their phone number, telling him to give them a call when their husbands weren't around. Sexy.
Yeah, the guy that smells like old beans.
Yeah.
There were two major products that Double Dare turned down licensing agreements for. They turned down a $1 million offer from Casio to be the official time clock of the series, and they also turned down a $1 million deal for an official serial. Now, the reason Nickelodeon was turning down these deals, they said, quote, "We're not Disney." But you also hear stories about how they were struggling. The show wasn't making a ton of money. And a Casio sponsorship, because obviously with these physical challenges, or even when they're asking these questions, there's a counter, there's a clock.
Yeah.
Slap Casio's name above that thing and you could have made $1 million. Like,
Yeah.
I get that you're not Disney, but it doesn't seem like the smartest business sense. But
No, I think that really doesn't make sense considering the type of show that it was. Because it was that type of show. It's like, you should try to milk that for every dollar that you can. Get endorsements on everything. And but the thing is, was the general vibe Disney sells out? Disney's all about the money. We're not going to whore ourselves out.
that's kind of what I
Disney have that-
gather. When I
Yeah?
look into a lot of things on Nickelodeon, they really wanted to be the anti-Disney. They just wanted to be the kind of the opposite almost.
Yeah,
Like there's a great documentary on Hulu where they talk to a lot of the people who were there in the early days, and they mention how they kind of liked being the underdog. They liked being the
Right.
company that was new, sort of figuring things out while they go. And since it wasn't Disney, they could try things that Disney would
Right.
never try, like a Double Dare,
Right.
stuff like that.
Right. Okay. The prizes weren't generally anything over the top, but one time they did give away a car specifically because they wanted to hear a kid scream, "It's a new car!"
Again, and this is a group of people that didn't take the money from Casio for a goddamn sponsorship. But so slime, as you know, with Nickelodeon, that's kind of their big thing. The slime started out as green Jell-O mixed with flour, but it took too long to prep. Next, they went with cream of wheat mixed with green food coloring, but this became too sticky. It would like clump into kids' hair, and it was too much. So what they ended up doing is the winning combination was applesauce, green food coloring, and vanilla pudding. Wow. Imagine how that smells.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Imagine having to get that out of your hair. And finally, Mark Summers has hardcore OCD, which seems odd considering how messy the show was. He even appeared in a series of VHS videos addressing his condition and therapy. That's an interesting way to cap.
I guess he would like go backstage in between takes because it was
and just start
being
tapping
that
doorknobs.
hard. I wonder if he ever pinched his leg when he was leaving the house to make sure the garage door was properly closed or not.